Romans, British, Ottomans, maybe even the Aztecs. But what if I told you that Mexico, the nation we know today, was twice an empire in its own right, complete with emperors, palaces, and grand ambitions? It's a fascinating, often overlooked chapter of history, packed with drama, conflict, and larger-than-life characters. So, grab your popcorn, because today we're diving deep into the complete turbulent history of the Mexican Empire. Our story begins not with conquest from abroad, but with a fight for freedom. In the early 1800s, Mexico was the colony of New Spain, ruled by the Spanish crown for 3 centuries. But the winds of change were blowing. Inspired by revolutions in America and France, a powerful independence movement was gaining momentum. After a grueling 11-year war, Mexico finally declared its independence from Spain in 1821. The nation was free, but a massive question loomed. What kind of government should it have? A republic, like its northern neighbor, the United States, or something else entirely? This is where our first emperor steps onto the stage, Agustín de Iturbide. Iturbide was a charismatic and cunning military commander who had initially fought for the Spanish but later switched sides, playing a pivotal role in securing Mexico's independence. He was a national hero. As the new nation struggled to find its footing, many, including powerful landowners and the military, saw a monarchy as the best way to ensure stability and prevent the country from fracturing. They believed a strong central figure could unite the diverse regions and fend off foreign threats. On the night of May 18, 1822, a sergeant led a demonstration in Mexico City, chanting for Iturbide to become emperor. The next day, under immense public and military pressure, the new Mexican Congress proclaimed him Agustín I, constitutional emperor of Mexico. His empire was vast, stretching from modern-day Oregon in the north all the way down to Panama in the south, making it one of the largest countries in the world at the time. A lavish coronation was held, modeled after Napoleon's, complete with a golden crown and imperial robes. It seemed like a glorious new era had begun. But the glamour was short-lived. The first Mexican Empire was plagued by problems from the very start. The treasury was empty after a decade of war, and the new government had no money to pay its army or run the country. Iturbide's leadership style didn't help. He was seen as autocratic and quickly clashed with the elected Congress, which he eventually dissolved, replacing it with a hand-picked council. This move alienated many of his former supporters, who accused him of being a tyrant, not a liberator. Republican ideals were still very strong, and leaders like Antonio López de Santa Anna began to plot against him. The empire crumbled almost as quickly as it had risen. Rebellions broke out across the country. Lacking funds and popular support, Iturbide couldn't hold his vast territory together. The provinces of Central America broke away to form their own federation. By early 1823, facing overwhelming opposition, Emperor Agustín Fermín abdicated the throne, less than a year after his coronation. He went into exile in Europe, but his story has a tragic final act. Believing he could return to help his country, he sailed back to Mexico in 1824, unaware that the new Republican government had declared him a traitor and sentenced him to death. He was captured and executed shortly after landing. And so ended the First Mexican Empire, a brief but dramatic experiment in monarchy. For the next 4 decades, Mexico endured a period of intense instability. It became a republic, but it was a chaotic one, marked by coups, civil wars, and a devastating war with the United States that cost Mexico half of its territory. This constant turmoil left the nation weak and deeply in debt, especially to European powers like Britain, Spain, and France. And it was this debt that would open the door for Mexico's second, and even more improbable, imperial adventure. Enter Napoleon III, Emperor of France. Ambitious and eager to restore French influence in the Americas, he saw Mexico's weakness as a golden opportunity. Using the unpaid debts as a pretext, he orchestrated a full-scale French invasion of Mexico in 1862. His grand plan was to overthrow the Republican government of President Benito Juárez and install a European monarch who would be loyal to France. He found his perfect candidate in a hopeful Austrian archduke, Ferdinand Maximilian of the House of Habsburg. Maximilian was, by all accounts, a well-meaning and liberal-minded man. He was the younger brother of the Austrian emperor and lived a comfortable life in a beautiful castle overlooking the Adriatic Sea. At first, he was hesitant to accept the Mexican crown. He only agreed after being presented with a supposedly nationwide petition, largely fabricated by Mexican conservatives and the French, begging him to come and save their country. Believing he was genuinely wanted by the Mexican people, Maximilian and his ambitious wife, a Belgian princess named Charlotte, or Carlotta, set sail for their new kingdom. In 1864, they arrived in Mexico to establish the Second Mexican Empire. Maximilian I was crowned emperor. Unlike Iturbide's empire, this one was backed by the might of the French army. The new emperor and empress moved into Chapultepec Castle in Mexico City, transforming it into a grand imperial residence. Maximilian genuinely wanted to be a good ruler. He was surprisingly liberal, upholding many of the progressive reforms of his rival, Benito Juárez, such as land reform and religious freedom. This shocked and angered his conservative backers, who had hoped he would reverse those policies. At the same time, he completely failed to win over the liberals and Republicans, who saw him as nothing more than a foreign puppet. He was a man stuck in the middle, pleasing no one. The empire's fate was tied to two things: the French army and the American Civil War. As long as the United States was busy fighting itself, it couldn't enforce the Monroe Doctrine, which opposed European intervention in the Americas. But in 1865, the Civil War ended. A reunified and militarily powerful United States immediately demanded that France withdraw its troops from Mexico, and even supplied weapons to Juárez's Republican forces. Facing pressure from the U.S. and a costly unpopular war at home, Napoleon III pulled his army out, leaving Maximilian exposed and vulnerable. What followed was a tragedy. With the French gone, Juárez's Republican armies quickly retook the country. Empress Carlota desperately sailed to Europe, pleading with Napoleon III and even the Pope for help, but her requests were denied. The stress and despair drove her to a severe mental breakdown from which she would never recover. Back in Mexico, Maximilian refused to abandon his supporters and abdicate. He made a final, heroic stand with his loyalist generals in the city of Querétaro. After a long siege, he was captured. Despite pleas for clemency from across the world, the Republican government, determined to send a clear message that Mexico would never again be ruled by foreign powers, put him on trial. On June 19, 1867, Emperor Maximilian I was executed by a firing squad. His final words were, "May my blood be the last to be spilled for the welfare of the country." The execution of Maximilian marked the definitive end of monarchy in Mexico. The republic was restored under Benito Juárez, and the nation embarked on a long, difficult path toward modernization and stability. The two Mexican empires were brief, fleeting moments in the country's long history, born from instability and foreign ambition. They stand as powerful lessons about national sovereignty, the clash of ideologies, and the tragic fates of the men who dared to wear the crown. They are a reminder that the path to a nation's identity is often complex and filled with dramatic, unexpected turns. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through a forgotten corner of history. What do you think? Could a monarchy have ever truly worked in Mexico? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to explore more fascinating stories from the past, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.